Okay, admit all. Love you. Thank you, Mummy. And we're just going to start everything live streaming as well. We're going to just start everything with a Bismillah, because it's just always best to start things with Bismillah. Everyone else is popping in now. And just going to start the recording. Hi, all. Thank you for being so patient. Sorry for hopping onto this a little bit late. That's me on technology issues. Just to get the PowerPoint up that we've got. We've got like a really resourceful day for you guys to hopefully take what you learn and actually apply it and take it out onto the streets and take action with it for Sudan. So we're asking Allah, please don't let anything freeze. Please let everything go smoothly. And please just let this be a space that we can also learn and take away what we learn. I've just got 2 more to admit in here. Okay. So we've still got people joining. So while that's happening, I can just do like a quick intro. We love a little bit of, we love a little bit of multitasking, right? Tab and view. Okay, we love, it's loading, we love. So, salam alaikum all. I'm expecting some more people to hopefully be dropping into this as well. And we are streaming live. I've got 3 amazing people, Waleed, Jumana, and Khalid. I run Mazudi's Empowerment Network. That was really created to be able to pass the mic to where it needs to be done and also highlight intersectional activism. So how a lot of things have been like really interconnected and how a lot of things that are causing people to struggle is really a big colonistic capitalism thing that is really ongoing. So while being activists, it's so important that we try to unlearn as well as continue to learn what is happening. And the best way we can do that is also by holding each other accountable, but also, I love the term calling in with love. So if you're with someone, for example, and you know they're a close friend and they're just not quite there yet, and it's something that doesn't especially affect you directly, call them in with love. You're always allowed to walk away from a situation if it's dangerous for you, if someone is directly targeting who you are or parts of who you are. But also it's so important that we do stand when we have got the chance to stand and that we call it in love, and then also knowing when it's important to walk away, because not everyone's mind can be changed. And that's okay. We'll work with who we've got. And, you know, that's a core group, and that's a beautiful core group. And the revolution is beautiful. So this is called Understanding Sudan, History, Hope, and Resistance. And this is a webinar. And I really want to highlight on these 3 things, the history, the hope, and the resistance, because in 2003, around at this date, this is when the Darfur genocide started, and that saw over 20,000 Sudanese people killed. And I will be mentioning statistics during this, but it's also important to remember that statistics are people. We're not just saying numbers to say numbers is like 20,000 people. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview and content warning. Sorry, I didn't finish typing out this slide, but there won't be any images in this. I don't believe in using images of people's struggles during workshops. I think it's possible to get the message across without showing people's traumas, but there will be mention of the word rape and abuse. And if that is a lot, then please feel free to just take a break and come back. This session will be recorded. So in Sudan currently, the amount of people that's internally displaced is sort of different on different websites. So it's about 13 million people that are displaced, half of these being children and women, and about 10 million of those are displaced internally within the country. But there's also like neighboring countries around as well. Over 25.6 million are facing acute hunger. And just to even try and highlight how large that number is it's more than the population of London. Like that is a really large number of people that have food insecurity because of the proxy war that is currently ongoing, but also because of things that are happening with climate change. It's really important that we do use this term proxy war and not civil war, because there are outside factions and outside countries that are also playing a part in the proxy war that is ongoing, that I'll be going into in another slide. There have been over 113 health facilities that have been attacked, over 45 humanitarian workers who have been martyred, and there's been over 33,000 martyrs as well. So that's just a slight overview of what's to come. So there are two main forces that are involved. So you have the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF, and you have the RSF, which is the Rapid Support Force, who were a paramilitary group of the Sudanese Armed Force. And I don't want to use the word caused a power struggle, but these two are the two that are mainly involved. So the SAF is receiving support from countries like Egypt, Ukraine, Iran, and Saudi, and the RSF is known to receive support from UAE, especially when it comes to like smuggling gold out and getting weapons, and from Russia and the Wagner Group, and that will be touched a little bit further as well. So it's really important to highlight that this is a proxy war, this is a genocide, and that ethnic cleansing is taking place. So Sudan is the third largest country in Africa, and just looking at the location of it and how close it is to the Red Sea is also why a lot of different countries are really interested in Sudan and taking what Sudan has. Just like how we've seen during colonization, it's the same kind of thing happening again, but through the SAF and the RSF within those countries as well. And the term civil war always hides like the colonial involvement that does happen. So when there are things that do tend to occur in Africa, they love saying the term civil war, civil war, civil war, without actually accounting any of the responsibility that's also happening to the people that are powering what's going on. So Sudan has been called one of the largest humanitarian crises that is currently ongoing. It's the largest humanitarian crisis. This has been reported on mainstream news channels as well. It's been reported on the UN website, on Al Jazeera. So it's not like it's a secret what is happening in Sudan, and it is being documented. The RSF has been known to target ethnic African minorities. This has been known since 2003 when it was when you had the Janjaweed as well, who were known to not touch certain areas, but areas that they thought. I've had a bit of a long day, but we're pushing through. But the Janjaweed were known to go for areas that weren't sort of Arab Sudan areas and ethnically cleanse these areas. And so we're looking back at really 20 years ago when a lot of this was happening, and it's still happening today. The SAF has been known for blocking aid as well, and it's really important to like clarify as well that both sides, the SAF and the RSF, are both guilty of war crimes. So the targeting of women and girls is something that always gets used during wars, conflicts, genocide. Women and girls' bodies are always used as a form of as a weapon per se. So women and girls are facing really, really bad gender-based sexual violence, and some of the stories that have come out of Sudan have been absolutely horrific. I do want to give a trigger warning as well before I do explain any of them. There have been cases of gang rape that has taken place, where people have struggled then to get to the hospital to try and get the support they need and to try and get the care that they need afterwards. And recently as well, over 130 women, a mass suicide was committed by 130 women because of the chance of them being raped within this, because there's such a high chance of it happening, and it's happened to so many women and girls within Sudan as well. And I feel like that's something that can't just be brushed over as well. So with like a lot of genocides that we do see, you do see the destruction of hospitals where people need to go. You do see the destructions of schools where education takes place. You do see the destruction of places that are built up. And I know this is quite heavy as well. And I want to sort of remind people as well that is people will destroy homes, you know, but they can never take home, which sounds like such a small little thing to say, but the concept, the feeling of home, the land being your home, they can do as much as they've done, and it still doesn't change the fact that home will always be home, and they can't take that from you, no matter what they do. As you can see as well on some of the highlights, that their like families have been displaced, and entire communities have been displaced. And once again, these aren't just numbers, these are people, you know, these are people, these are mothers, these are fathers, these are children, doctors, teachers, people like all of us. So 50 to 80% of Sudan's gold production is smuggled abroad. So when we look at the big gold they have in Dubai, that has come on the back of Sudanese blood. And with the gold being smuggled out the country by them working hand in hand with the Rapid Support Force. We give you weapons, you cause bloodshed, you give us the gold. There's also been global funding as well that has been funding this proxy war, from Egypt, Iran, UAE, and Russia. But UAE is massively taken a lot from this. So the genocide isn't silent, but it's being silent. A lot of people, there's meant to be like a little Black Lives Matter thing there. But during the murder of George Floyd, we saw so many people rise up and take to the streets, and businesses post black squares about Black Lives Matter, right? But the Black lives in Africa don't seem to be having people listen to them, and that is the truth. So how can we have said Black Lives Matter years ago, and yet we are not listening to Sudanese voices, we're not listening to Congolese voices, we're not listening to voices of the African diaspora who are calling and talking about what is happening back home? To be able to ignore that doesn't sound very Black Lives Matter. And there's also an anti-Africanness of it, and that has to be said as well. The way that Africa is viewed when it comes to genocides, when it comes to ethnic cleansing happening, it's a civil war. Oh, it's certain words used. It's never actually looking at who's causing this and who's also funding it and also keeping it going. And they're also viewed with less empathy. Like, Africans are humans just like every other person on this globe, but yet they're not being listened to the same. No genocide is silent. There are journalists that are in Sudan. There is news coming out of Sudan. There are people in the diaspora who are sharing news from Sudan. And it is also our responsibility to listen and to learn, but also not to just lean on our Sudanese folks to tell us everything that's happening when the internet's free, Google's free, resources are free. And there are so many pages that do highlight what is happening in Sudan. When the Black Lives Matter movement kicked off, I would not expect my friends to sit there and ask me certain questions, because first, this is what I'm going through. But second, the last thing I want to have to do is tell you everything about everything. That is a heavy weight to bear while also going through something. So turn to your Sudanese friends to support them, be there for them, let them know they can talk to you if you need to, but also don't be asking them the basic questions like, what is SAF and RSF, when you can literally type that into Google, you know? We do need to also be aware of like the intersectional vulnerabilities that are taking place. So even with climate change, how it is affecting certain places, how it causes droughts and floods more. And if that's happening where we can see here, in the global south, that is hitting so much harder. And the fight has been going on for longer in the global south than it has here. There's also the ethnic cleansing that is happening again, and also the intersectionality of being a woman at this time as well, where women's bodies do get used as a weapon. But this also doesn't mean that things don't happen to men as well. And it is really important to highlight that and say that. So even though it's all really heavy, what I want you to do with your Sudanese friends as well is like celebrate them. Celebrate their culture, celebrate their home, celebrate their love, celebrate their music. When I heard Jumana sing for the first time, I was like, oh, like the amount of joy that it gave me. Even though this is ongoing, it doesn't mean that we're not allowed our joy during the fight. Sorry, I forgot to read the reactions. And radical joy is also something important. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry, but also, I'm just checking I haven't frozen for everyone. I'm okay? Okay. It's also really important to honor and preserve what we have. So the fact that we are even here right now on this call is a testimony to our ancestors, you know, and it's also a testimony to the fight that is happening in Sudan, and we need to carry that on for them, you know. I really want this call or this recording or however you're watching it to be a stepping stone, you know, like this is like level 1, you know, but we've all got to start somewhere. I want you to come learn and hear Sudanese voices, also go through the emotion with our Sudanese siblings, you know, that includes the sad, the angry, and the joy. And then take to the street, send those emails, do the learning, tell a friend at the dinner table. And it's just really important that we don't stop these conversations happening, and that if you have got a Sudanese sibling, that you don't stop them from having this conversation, you know? Okay, let's see what's on the next page, because... Okay, let's welcome our panel. So up first, we have Khalid. Khalid, if you would like to introduce yourself, I'm going to put myself on mute.
Thank you, Miriam. That was a good introduction, and thanks for inviting me and for facilitating this talk. I think it's quite important to talk about what's happening there in Sudan, because there is media silence completely, there's complicity, there's a lack of, I wouldn't say understanding, but having knowledge, basic knowledge of what's happening there. And to me, that's not by accident. That's deliberate action from certain class, from the ruling class. So my name is Khalid Sidahmed, as in the slide. I'm a trade unionist, activist, anti-war. I don't like calling myself these names because I think it's part of our human nature to fight for justice and for equality. And that's probably why I'm an equality officer in Unite the Union, because I think that's more suitable for me. And I'm in Portsmouth Trade Council as well. as a equality officer and a vice chair as well. So most of my work involved with trade unionism in general, because I believe that workers have a lot to do to make a change, and because we control the means of production. And once you have that control, you can switch off that bloody tap and it's gonna stop dripping. And some people, they're gonna get upset and they're gonna get poorer if we unite. And that's the aim. I'm also heavily involved with the Sudanese trade unions. I'm part of the General Assembly of the Sudanese Workers Alliance for the Restoration of Trade Union, part of Stand Up to Racism Palestine Solidarity Campaign, heavily involved with MENA Solidarity, which is the Middle East and North Africa Solidarity Network. And we are a network of trade activists and trade unionists work within trade unionists to link trade unions in the MENA region, which is the Middle East and North Africa, with the trade unions in Britain. And we've been working quite successfully in reflecting what's happening in Sudan since the beginning of the revolution in 2018 to what's happening with the unions here, delivering lots of solidarity messages and things like that. So what's happening in Sudan within the trade union in general is well known. And I think that would be enough. We'll talk more about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khalid, and also thank you for joining today. Funny story, so Khalid was actually the first person I learned about Sudan from, which I know as an activist sounds crazy to say, but activists all start in a certain place, right? We don't all just wake up. And yeah, I did the completely ignorant thing of looking at, so Sudan walks around with like this cardboard placard, and it always says Sudanese revolution stands with, and it'll be whatever cause he's going to stand with. And it had the Sudan flag, and I was like, that's not the Palestine flag, and it just started up the conversation of me going home and learning more. You know, I'm never going to say that I've never done anything ignorant in my life, because that would be a lie, but it's how we move forward from it. And I'm really excited to introduce next Jumana, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mariam. Good evening, everyone, and good morning if you're joining us from the other part of the world. I'm so glad to be here with you, connecting with all of you, and thank you, Mariam, for organizing this event. You've been showing up for the cause. Thank you for that. My name is Jumana. I am Sudanese at heart, and also, but yes, Sudanese, but also my heart beats for the struggle beyond borders. I work with women and girls in Sudan. I am a feminist, and the work that I do, I try to, it's deeply rooted in care, justice, and also collective liberation. Of course, I don't see my activism separate from this struggle. I'm deeply connected to it. I am part of the struggle, and yes, supporting the advocacy of women, of Sudanese women for ending the peace. And also, yes, supporting the advocacy and working closely with women and girls in Sudan. I came to the UK in August 2023, and to be honest, I physically arrived, but emotionally, part of me emotionally still in Sudan, emotionally and politically very tied to Sudan. And I'm arriving in London, not fully, but I am very grateful for my safety being here in the UK, and also very grateful to stay connected with people whom I work with, supporting in Sudan. It helps me to stay relevant to the work that I do, relevant to the people's realities. Glad to be here with you, and maybe I just also I wanted to take this opportunity also to acknowledge, just to take some moments to acknowledge and honor those who have been killed, disappeared, or continue to face violations. And I also just wanted to say this is not symbolic acknowledgement, but also just a reminder for us to keep their stories in the heart of our conversation, our activism, and the work that we're doing. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for being here. Solidarity is also, yes, about listening. There are so many stories to tell, to share. Not only the stories from the panelists, but also Sudanese people have been documenting lots of stories, their experiences, and what they're going through. It's also solidarity also means that we listen and we learn about what's going on. Thank you.
Very much, Jumana. Oh, no,
I didn't know this app makes the sound of the reactions.
It's cute though, right?
Thank you.
I met Jumana at Waleed's show, Cutting the Tightrope, and from there we've just always talked, and it's been always a blessing to hear her talk, but also just hear her experience that she's always been willing to share. Not that you've had to, but like is always taught me so much as well, and also about the strength of Sudanese women. But then also Jumana is also a singer, and wow, when she sings those Sudanese songs, like I don't know a word of what you're saying, but I feel it in my heart. So if we end up doing this in person, inshallah, we'll do that. We're gonna have to get you to come along and sing some beautiful, beautiful songs. And last but not least, my dear friend Waleed, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mariam, for putting this together. Really great to meet you as well, Khalid and Jumana. My name is Waleed Elgadi. I'm an actor, writer, and activist. Predominantly an actor. I've been doing that for over 20 years. The writing is a newer thing. The activism, an even newer thing. I'd say my activism started with the revolution in 2019. Interesting what you say, Mariam, about we don't just wake up one day and become activists. But interestingly also, my name means, Waleed Elgadi means the newborn judge or newborn justice. And I think there's a condition or a sort of phenomenon where you kind of, your name sort of guides a little bit of your destiny. I think as an artist, I've always been preoccupied with the themes of social and racial injustice, and the intersectionality between that and my activism. I've put on, so for instance, last year, I put an event called Stand with Sudan, Messages from the People, which was an event that was put together, I kind of spearheaded it, if I'm honest, through the White Kite Collective, which is an organization, another grassroots organization that I've done a lot of work with for Gaza. And I introduced them to London for Sudan and Madaniya. And this was an opportunity basically to read testimonies. It's not performance, it's really you're giving testimony to people. So to the voiceless, so to either of people's journeys out of Sudan, or for people who are either still stuck at the borders or within the country itself. So it was transcribing and writing, translating their work, and to educate people about what's going on in Sudan. But also, like, I've read speeches, or have given speeches at several rallies and protests for Sudan here in the UK, or read poetry of Sudanese artists. But I'm trying to sort of focus my activism a lot more into my art moving forward. So, for instance, last year, which is when Mariam was just talking, I was lucky enough to write a piece about Sudan in a play called Cutting the Tightrope, which was dealing with censorship in the arts and how Sudan is being censored out of public consciousness. So that was kind of one of my and currently I've been writing this project since the pandemic. It's a play and a novel. I'm in a second draft. It's kind of my, it's the albatross around my neck. It's about 30 years of Sudanese history, from 1989 till today, till 2019. In fact, the 3rd of June 2019, which is a date that we will probably talk about later, which is a really tough day in Sudanese history, the massacre of Khartoum. I was born in Sudan, as I said, and it's an intergenerational family drama. But we left Sudan I'm an immigrant. We left when I was 11 years old. So I'm very much a byproduct of that previous regime, which is also very much influential in the war that we are going through at the moment. I think that's enough for now.
There we go. Thank you so much, Waleed. And I don't even remember where I met you or what we were doing, but I just would constantly see your face every time with like just an amazing smile. And then I never actually saw Waleed in his craft until I finally went along to Cutting the Tightrope. And all I can say is, wow. Truly phenomenal work. And I just can't wait to see like more come out in the future. And the way you tell the story, I feel emotional just saying it, but the way you just do your work really is truly an honor to watch. And thank you to all three of you for coming as well. I really do appreciate it. And with questions, we're doing really well with time. So if you want to go over 5 minutes answering the question, or even just have conversations while answering the questions, please feel free. This is the part where I really not forget everything I said beforehand, but really this is the part that's most important, because we're hearing from Sudanese voices. This is the reason that we've shown up today. And I give big thanks to my friends for also showing up and being available to do this. So this is really the part that I want you guys to focus on more than anything, because it's also hearing about different things, how they feel about certain situations, and also what their hopes are. So with that, let the panel commence. So can you share what drives your work as an activist, artist, or advocate for Sudan, and what moments have shaped your commitment to this cause? And also, if there's any question you don't want to answer, that's okay as well. Go on, Waleed. Can you not unmute?
Yeah, sorry. Do we just go ahead? Right. I thought you were going to. Okay, I'm happy to go first. I guess I sort of touched on it a little bit when I just spoke. But I think the revolution in 2019 was really, for me, very mobilizing, because it was impossible to see this after 30 years of a dictatorship. And to see this beautiful revolution where every section of Sudanese society, because the revolution basically started infamously because of the hike up in prices of bread, and that was sort of the catalyst that got a bunch of students originally that went and started. Basically, they were fed up with the status quo. But this had been something that had been brewing. There'd been several attempts at a revolt to a totalitarian dictatorship that had been going since 1989 when the military coup took over. And in 2018, I beg your pardon, when the revolution started, it was suddenly every section of Sudanese society took to the streets. You had million marches on the weekly. You had this incredible, it became a real sort of opportunity for the world to see what being Sudanese actually can mean. And it was, the streets reverberated with the cries of Hurriya, Salam, Adala, freedom, peace and justice. Revolution is the will of the people. So, yeah, for me as a diaspora, it was impossible to see that happening back home, and to not have the very least we could do, I could do, is go out into the streets here in London and let people know about it, and actually make sure that we were chanting in English, that we weren't just chanting it, because there was a lot of us that would go out, because a lot of us Sudanese diaspora, and it was a beautiful moment. So that was kind of the beginning of my activism. Unfortunately, it actually took about 8 months. It took until the 3rd of June. It took until about Rihanna posting about it on Twitter for the rest of the world to catch up, because it was during BLM and Black Lives Matter, and it was suddenly like, well, why is it exactly as you said, Mariam? Why is it some Black Lives matter more than others? That definitely drives my work as an activist. But also, my parents were visiting Sudan. We all moved here in 1991, but my parents were in Sudan on April 15th in 2023 when war broke out, and it took us 3 weeks to get them out of the country. Obviously, they're lucky they got out, but they're elderly, and it was really one of the most traumatizing times in my life, like getting them out. So that also really sort of motivates a lot of my activism, and wanting to let the world know about what's happening in Sudan, and letting the world know about how complicit we are to what's happening in Sudan, because my parents suffered really at the hands of not getting out, because the British government took its time. So they had to go the route, basically, despite being British passport holders, they had to go the route that many other Sudanese, privileged Sudanese, who were able to get out, was to go through Egypt. And it was a horrific 3 weeks for us and for them. Also, I went back to Sudan as an adult in 2011, just when the country got divided into two. And I lived there by myself for 2 years. And I kind of got to know the country on my own terms, and got to see the beautiful side of Sudan that I didn't know about as a child. So I got to see Merowe, Karima. I got to go down the Nile. I got to stay up, and have an adult experience. So I sort of reconnected with my culture again. And that drives my activism, because Sudan is so much more than just a sort of misery-induced footnote that it often gets thought of, or that place over there in Africa where those wars happen or famines happen. It's so much more, and hopefully this will go some way towards highlighting that.
Thank you so much, Waleed. Who would like to jump in next?
I really enjoyed that.
You are muted straight away.
No, I enjoy this talk. That was brilliant. Jumana, do you want to go, or I can jump in? Or
I'm okay, you can go.
Yeah, so to me it's slightly different, because I was born in London, and I traveled since I was a child. We traveled to different countries, and I remember in '89, after Omar al-Bashir's coup, or during the coup, I was in Sudan for a holiday. I was still a school kid, but I remember we went out on the streets, and we experienced the brutality of the police, the gas canisters, the hitting, running behind you, chasing, and things like that. And that was an experience which kind of opened my eyes to lots of things, to how the world is different and is brutal, and there are people who are not nice. That's my thinking at that age. And then the war in Iraq started, which was another brutality as well going on. You observe the media lying to the people while there are thousands of people dying. Went to Russia, lived for quite some time there. You still see the oppression against the people, experience racism as well. And so the level of the impact on me, and me getting older and all that, starting to understand and trying to link these things, because I kind of experienced these things, I saw them. And coming back to the UK, I can't remember, 20 years ago or something, there were demonstrations for the Iraq war. I used to go there. The 2013 revolution in Sudan, that was a kickoff. That was a quite eye-opening thing, because in one day over 200 people were massacred, and the world was silent. Same as Waleed, the 2018 revolution, that was a serious thing. Although I was involved, I did contact even my MP regarding the war in Syria. But it's different from being an observer and someone whose family are there, your friends and everyone there, and you can see the collectiveness of the people working together towards one thing. I remember the scenes in the sit-ins. There were 14 sit-ins at the same time. Even the beginning of the sit-in itself, that's an interesting story, because it was just marches. And those marches, I remember the one I saw in the capital Khartoum, it's starting, the video is in YouTube, and you can see different people just doing their daily ordinary things, and people on the one side drinking, others couple talking and things like that. And there was a lady in the middle, and she out of the blue started urinating, and you can see thousands of people going there. That was the sign. No one knew the exact kickoff and when it's going to happen and things like that. And from there, people did their marches. They went in front of the military headquarters, and they built or made or sat there for a sit-in, which went for a few months. Thus, there were 14 sit-ins around the country. And the one in Khartoum, we were following exactly. We don't know the people there, but every day you go and just switch on the live on Facebook, and you just follow them and watch them and talking. They don't need, lots of them, they don't know each other, because thousands of them. But there's only one cause. Gather them together is to just make a change, a positive change, a civilian rule, get rid of the current system. And that was an image which had a huge impact on me. You can see professors, teachers sit there and educate people on different subjects. A scene which I would never forget. You see the people carrying buckets and shouting and screaming, if you have money, put, if you don't have, take. That's a proper socialism. That's people working together. You don't see that anywhere. But unfortunately, the same forces who are fighting now, at that time, they attacked those, and that was a trauma. to me, because I saw that's how we had every single device at home. We were watching that. There were nearly all mobile phones, laptops, anything. We were watching the massacres happened on that day, on the 3rd of June, 2019. We were watching that, and we knew it's coming because we were following the convoy of the military. The military, they were moving from different sites in Khartoum and in other cities. And we were following that because there were people from the revolutions. They were following those cars and they were streaming live. And we were sending messages to the people in the sit-in. But they attacked them. Lots of them, they refused. And they were killed and massacred. And some of them, even their hands and legs were tied to rocks and thrown in the Nile alive. It was a horrible picture. There were even lives of rape going on. And that had a huge impact. And when you see, you know, death is coming to you, and you don't go, and you don't walk away, that's a level of heroism. That means you committed to the cause, you committed to the change, you committed to giving your soul and your life for your country, for the change you believe in. And those people, to me, they lived heroes, and they died heroes, and they will remain heroes, not just on my eyes, on the eyes of the revolution and all revolutions around the world. And I think that's, to us, that is a commitment for us to take that legacy for those people who sacrificed their souls for a cause to continue. And here we continue, and I think this is a good platform. We build that everywhere we go. We have to talk about it. And we have to learn from it. And change doesn't come easily, because you're not changing a switch or you're changing a paper or a car or something. You're changing a system that is prepared to go to any level of eliminations of any route to control you, to rob you, to keep you subservient to them. So we will continue fighting, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khalid. I feel like I'm actually going to do a collective breathing for all of us because there was so much there. So we all just take a big breath in through our nose, hold it, and breathe out. I'm just going to do that one more time. In, hold it, and breathe out. Thank you so much. Like, just wanted to add on that as well. Just, it's funny, like, I always say, like, I smell revolution, like, in the air. But the truth is, the revolution isn't going to kick off in England. It's going to kick off in the ground, like countries like Sudan. And we're the ones that need to carry it on. You know, that's where the revolution really kicks off from. And we just have to carry on that work for every single person. Jumana.
Thank you, Waleed and Khalid, for sharing that. And it's very touching.
I can't see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. It's breaking for me a bit, so I just switch also off my camera. Okay, can you hear me now clearly?
Can hear you loud and clear, babe.
Okay, perfect. So since I was young, I started the feminist thinking, and I was raised by a very strong and powerful mother who also shaped my understanding of resilience, I also grew up with my two sisters and my mother, all of us women. And I also, from very early age, I started learning about women's struggles and how they are connected. But a very significant event in my life, I was 9 years old or 10 years old. I had a bicycle, and a very happy child. I do have my bicycle, but one day I came back from school and I found out that my bike was given to a male neighbor just because he's a boy. And then my uncle said, like, you're grown up now, you can't play with the bicycle in the street. And I think I just, from very early age, I started questioning certain roles, behaviors and opportunities are restricted based on gender, because I am a girl. There are certain things that I have to do, some of the things I cannot do. I remember also the first day at the university. I studied at University of Khartoum, and at that time it was during al-Bashir regime. We were not allowed to wear trousers. We were not allowed to wear certain, there was a dress code. And the first day I went to the university, I was not allowed in because of my skirt. The security said that your skirt is not long enough. And in Sudan at that time, the university security guards they often had dual roles. They act both as campus security, but also representatives of national security forces. So the role just helps them to not only enforce the campus rules and policies, but also the broader national policies that are very discriminative against women, and rules that are related to the gender norms and public morality. And this questioning, I kept this questioning about the way I behave, the way I dress, and all of that. But also very significant, as Waleed shared and also Khalid shared, the revolution, Sudan's revolution, 2018. But also before that, it's when we started marching and protesting in 2013. And I used to do that secretly. My family, my mom would be very worried of me participating in these protests. I would go secretly, and we protest, and I come late, but we hoped also for a better Sudan and the collective process and protest and all of that. But that was also the revolution of 2018 was defining moment. Women were on front lines, chanting, organizing. We all demanded freedom, as Waleed mentioned, حرية, salam, adala, and freedom, peace, and justice. And also it meant for us as women also freedom from a very oppressive regime, oppressive towards women, very discriminative laws, policies at different levels, societal, at structural levels. And that was also, it was just very inspiring to be part, as always I say, the power with people, very inspiring to be part of these collective efforts. And yes, and also this commitments is during this time of this current war is also shaped by the resistance and the resilience of women, and during this time of displacement, during the time of all what is happening, it's just it's so inspiring to witness the resilience of the women from the very first days. They provided for their families, they provided for the communities, they were actively engaged in the humanitarian responses, they were actively engaged, they immediately organized themselves advocating for peace. It is just very inspiring. The struggle is not only about the survival, which is, yes, we need to survive and people need to survive during this time, but it's also still about reimagining and building future for the country. And I find this very, and this is also what just fuels my commitment. And of course, so many times I just feel very I lose hope sometimes when things are not really working, and the news, all the horrible stories that I read, yes, when talking to some of my family members, they are still back in Sudan. It's just few days ago, an aunt, she's still in Sudan. They live in an area controlled by RSF. And we just received this call that the army, the SAF came into the area and asked them to evacuate immediately. And it's just, it feels like the first day of the war or the second day of the war, and with time I might think like maybe things are now, maybe they will get better, maybe things now were but things are getting not necessarily better, if not worse, in, of course, in other part of the country, but I stay hopeful with what people are doing in the country. Sudanese women, young people, people who are engaged in the emergency rooms, organizing, mobilizing resources to provide food, the community kitchens. This is what keeps me going, and this is what keeps me hopeful. At some point, this will end. Yes, and spaces like this where we come together, learn from each other, talk to people, and being heard as well. So spaces like this also keeps me going and keeps my commitment. And and I just continue to do what I'm doing. At some point, of course, we all need to rest. I rest and I come back. I get tired. I get energized again, and that's, I think, part of it, part of the process. Thank you. Yeah.
Jazakallah, Jumana. Every time I hear you talk about Khalid, go on.
Yeah, just want to talk about a little bit about the role of women in general. And she did mention quite important bits. And I think it's important we acknowledge the role of the Sudanese women in each single movement and revolution in Sudan. There were 3 revolutions. There was 64, then 85. But it's important we know that even the Sudanese Women's Union was created in 52, even before Sudan's independence. And that's showing the level of organization in the women's groups. And as she mentioned, the reasons why that's happening and the way they are treated in Sudan. And after the 89 coup by Omar al-Bashir, they came under the umbrella of Islam, and what they did is far way and different from Islam, abusing women and lots of quite nasty things, women to them as just objects. But if we talk about the recent history, about the revolution itself, to me, women are and continue to be, because the revolution hasn't finished. But it's the beating heart of the revolution, seeing the role of women in the sit-ins, in the organizations, in calling for the marches, the beginning of the marches inside trade unions, for example, even to the stage during marches. Each march, for example, when people go out, they know someone will be killed. It could be you, it could be me, it could be my friend, it could be the one next to me, and everyone. I remember these scenes. People used to say goodbye to their parents and their friends before they leave to the march, and writing a will inside their pockets and keep it there with a name. If they die, then people, at least they know who they are. Women, with all that, because they were used to get shot by live bullets, and women used to carry the first aid kits, hide them inside their pockets, inside their clothes and things like that, because if they were caught, they would be tortured.